The Erzya language, also known as Erzyan or historically as Arisa, is spoken by around 300,000 people in the eastern, northern, and northwestern parts of the Republic of Mordovia in Russia. It is also spoken in some nearby regions such as Novgorod, Samara, Ulyanovsk, Tatarstan, and others. There are also quite a few speakers in Armenia, Estonia, and Kazakhstan, and very few in other nations of Central Asia. It uses the Cyrillic alphabet and is the co-official language with Maksha, another Mordvinic language, and Russian in Mordovia. As we said, it belongs to the Mordvinic branch, which is a branch of the Uralic language, so it has very distant relations to Finnish, which we talked about in a prior video. Before we start talking about the language, how about a clip of how it sounds?
Sjöksin joks. Eres ashtis sjöks. Kizis karmas tuimi disteltisi sjöksins. Sjöksis a volti pilgent langs chalgas. Sekskak sas kejeks.
The Erzya people are one of the two main ethnic groups of the Mordvin people, the others being the Makshas. The Mordvins have historically inhabited the central Volga region of Russia, particularly the area that is now known as the Republic of Mordovia. Before the Slavic expansion, the ancestors of the Erzya and Maksha people lived in the four-steppe zone of Eastern Europe. They are part of the wider Finno-Ugric linguistic and cultural group, which also includes languages like Finnish, Estonian, and Hungarian. These people practice agriculture, animal husbandry, and hunting, and they had their own distinct cultural traditions and social structures. With the expansion of Slavic tribes into Eastern Europe from around the 6th century AD onwards, the Mordvin people gradually came under the influence of Slavic culture and language. Over time, many Mordvins adopted elements of Slavic culture, although they retained their distinct identity and language. The Republic of Mordovia, located in the Volga Federal District of Russia, was officially established on January 10, 1930, as an autonomous oblast within the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic. It became the Mordovian Autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic, or the Mordovian ASSR, within the Soviet Union. The capital of Mordovia is Saransk. Following the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, the Mordovian ASSR declared its sovereignty within the Russian Federation and adopted the name the Republic of Mordovia. It remains a federal subject of Russia with a degree of autonomy in cultural and linguistic affairs. The Erzya language began to diverge from its family languages as they settled in Volga and other surrounding areas. It began to obtain Slavic loanwords as it became in contact with neighboring Slavic tribes. With the adoption of Christianization and Russification during the Slavic expansion, efforts were made to halt the increase of both, but ultimately they were overcome. However, now efforts are made to preserve the language, culture, and even religion. The original religion of the Erzya people was Erzyan neo-paganism, and the name of the original god, according to Erzya tradition, is Ineshkibas. A period of policies during Slavic expansion, but neo-pagan revival started in 1990, and almost 2% of modern Erzyans practice their original faith. There is also a traditional Erzya holiday held every 3 years in the village of Chukali called Raken Oks. Erzyan neo-paganism consists of polytheism, worship of multiple deities, ancestor worship through rituals, prayers, and offerings, and nature reverence such as belief of spiritual significance and natural phenomena such as rivers, forests, animals, and plants. Before we get into the language, we should mention some important people of Erzya descent. Inesor Burgas was an Erzyan leader in the first half of the 13th century. It was the Grand Duke of the Principality of Burgas, a Mordvin principality that was notable for marking the first time that the Erzyas and Mokshas were united. He resisted Slavic expansion and is now a symbol of Erzyan independence and a figure of legend. He has been named in the Russian chronicles several times. His army defended against the raid of Russian princes and defeated the Mokshan prince Buresh in April 1229. In the summer of 1237, he resisted the Mongolian army but was ultimately defeated in the winter of 1239. He is now commonly known as the King of Mordovia. Siresh Balain is a Ukrainian public figure, poet, translator, and co-founder of the Free Idel Ural movement that aims for independence of multiple republics, such as Mordovia, and a leader of the Erzya national movement. He's been given the title of Inyazor, a title amongst Erzya leaders since the 13th century. Stepan Dmitrievich Erzya was an Erzyan Mordvin sculptor who lived in Russia and Argentina, who chose his last name after the native ethnic group. He has created portraits of Lenin, Marx, and Engels, along with other monumental works of art. He died in 1959 in Moscow and is buried in Saransk, the capital of Mordovia. Almost his entire collection of work is in the Erzya Mordovia Museum of Visual Arts. We always start with the language's writing system, so let's look at this one. The modern Erzya alphabet is the same as Russian's without any modifications. Here it is. However, the letters F, Kh, Shia, and Dvorodizhniak are only used in loanwords from Russian. The pre-1929 version of the alphabet included the additional letter Ng in some publications. Furthermore, a Latin alphabet was officially approved by the government of Nizhny Vozhinsky Krai in 1932, but it was never used. Here it is. There's also a proposal for a modern Latin alphabet. Here's how the Cyrillic alphabet would have correlated to the proposed Latin one. Some letters have multiple correlations to the proposed Latin alphabet. But let's dive deeper into the Mordovinic alphabet. Up until the beginning of the 20th century, the alphabet wasn't stable, but the modern alphabet has been in operation since the late 1920s. The oldest monument to the recording of the Moldovan languages is from the work of Dutch scientist Nicolaas Witsen's book Noord en Oost Tartaria, Northern and Eastern Tataria, published in Amsterdam in 1692. In this book, the author cites a dictionary of 325 Moldovan, mostly Makshan words, translated into Dutch. Throughout the years, Maksha and Erzya dictionaries and small texts have been constantly recorded and published by Russian and foreign scientists. Both of the Latin and Cyrillic transcriptions have been used. This is a display of the early Moldovan phonemes in the 18th century. In the second half of the 18th century, the first proper Moldovan texts appeared, which mostly consisted of translations of short essays made by the efforts of students and teachers. They were in the Cyrillic alphabet before the standard of writing was invented, so different texts used different techniques. At the beginning of the 19th century, books were published in the Moldovan languages, including a translation into the Erzya language of the Church Slavonic Primer in 1804. Other books quickly followed, and in 1821 to 1827, a complete Erzya translation of the New Testament was published, although the translation quality was very low. In 1867, the Brotherhood of St. Guria was founded in Kazan, which was founded to Christianize and educate the peoples of Russia. This significantly influenced education among peoples of the Volga region. Thanks to this, since the 1870s, publishing in the Moldovan language has become way more active. It is not only limited to religious texts, but also works of art and folklore. The writing was different in almost every edition, as there wasn't a standard of writing, so attempts were made, and Erzya primer A.F. Yurtov developed an alphabet that he applied to his works. Newspapers arose after linguistic registers and a standard dialect was established. For Erzya, this standard language was based on the dialect of the village of Kozlovka. Finally, in 1927, all additional letters in the Moldovan alphabet were cancelled. Alright, now let's look at its phonology. Here's a list of its consonants along with the Cyrillic letters designated to them. Just a very quick disclaimer from here on out. For any sounds or words I pronounce in this language, it most likely will be wrong, and that's because this is my first time in contact with this language, but I will do my best to make sure that it sounds correct. M, P, B, F, V, N, T, D, C, Z, Z, R, L, N, T, D, C, C, Z, R, Lia, Chia, Shia, Jia, Ya, N, K, G, H. F and H are loan phonemes for Russian, and there is a phonemic contrast between N and N despite sharing the same spelling. Some pairs include Yanga along the path, in which the alveolar N of the stem is retained before the prolative case ending G, versus Yangya, the conjugative form of the word Yangyams, to break. Contrary to what we've seen in Finnish, Erzya has a simple 5-vowel system: I, E, A, U, and O. As seen in Finnish and other Uralic languages, Erzya has vowel harmony. Roots contain either front vowels, I or E, or back vowels, U or O. Furthermore, all suffixes with mid-vowels have two forms. The form to be used is determined by the final syllable of the stem. The low vowel A is a back vowel and is not subject to vowel harmony. The rules of vowel harmony are as follows. If the final syllable of a word stem contains the front vowel, the front form of the suffix is used. Vele, village, velese, in a village. If the final syllable of the word stem contains a back vowel and is followed by a plain consonant, non-palatalized, aka tongue doesn't hit the roof of the mouth, then the back form of the suffix is used. Kudo, house, kudoso, in a house. However, there is a catch. If the back vowel is followed by a palatalized consonant or a palatal glide, vowel harmony is violated and the front form of the suffix is used. Calce, with willow, oyese, with butter. Likewise, if a front vowel stem is followed by a low back vowel suffix, following syllables will contain back harmony, relevanso, throughout its villages. Thus, different from Finnish, vowel harmony is violated because of the palatalized consonants zia and ria. For more info on vowel harmony, watch my Finnish language analysis video and let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a video discussing vowel harmony. Like all other Uralic languages, Erzya is agglutinative, which expresses grammatical relations through suffixes. This means words can get really big with all of the suffixes adding up. Nouns are also inflected for case, number, definiteness, which basically means semantics or context, and possessor. Erzya has an insane 12 cases. Number is systematically distinguished with definite nouns. For indefinite nouns and nouns with a possessive suffix, only the nominative case has a distinct plural. Using that, this chart will illustrate the cases with the noun moda, ground or earth. The nominative case, this basically just labels a noun or a subject. As we can see here, the nominative case is the only one where its indefinite distinguishes between singular and plural. We'll be going from left to right. So we have moda, modat, modash, modatne, modam, modan, modats, modatso, and modanzo. As we can see here, just so you guys don't get confused, the first person singular possessive, the second person singular possessive, and the third person singular possessive basically means that it's saying I have something, you have something, he, she, it has something. It distinguishes from the first person plural possessive, where that would be we have something, you all have something, and they have something. The genitive establishes a relationship between two nouns, modan, modant, modatne, and the rest are the same as the nominative. The dative case basically states when a noun is a recipient of an action, and the ablative case has the basic meaning of onto, like going onto something. Modanen, modanten, modatnenen, and the rest are the same as the nominative. The inessive basically means in something, like in a house. Modaso, modasont, modatsnese, modason, modasot, modasonso. The ablative case basically means that a noun comes from something. Modasto, modastont, modatsneste, modaston, modastot, modastonso. The ablative case basically means the basic meaning of into, like going into a house. This is different than inside of a house, where the noun or the subject is already inside. Modas, modanten, modatsnes, modason, modatsot, modatsonso. The prolative case basically means that a noun did something by the way of something. Like he did that by this. Modava, modavant, modatsneva, modavan, modavat, and modavanso. The ablative case basically means motion away from something. Modado, modadont, modatsneve, modadon, modadot, modadonso. The lative case has the basic meaning of to or into. This one only has a form for the indefinite, not distinguishing from singular or plural. Modaf. The translative case basically means when a noun turns into something else. Modax, modaxont, modatsnex, modaxon, modaxot, modaxonso. The abessive case has the basic meaning of without something. Modaftomo, modaftomont, modatsnevteme, modaftomon, modaftomot, modaftomonso. In the comparative case, basically means when you compare two nouns. Modashka, modashkant, modatsneshka, modashkan, modashkat, modashkanso. Plural possessors follow the pattern of second person singular possessors. In the nominative, we have modanok, modank, and modast. And continuing from what we said before, first person plural possessive, second person plural possessive, third person plural possessive basically means ours, yours, but when addressing to multiple people, and theirs. And for the inessive, modasonok, modasonk, modasost. Now let's look at verbs. Erzya verbs are inflected for tense and mood and are further conjugated for person of subject and object. Traditionally, there are three stems, A stems, O stems, and E stems. A stems always retain the stem vowel A in the non-third person present tense forms and in the third person first past tense forms. For example, balash, kissed. With many O stems and E stems, the stem vowel is dropped in these forms. For example, O stem vanch, watched, E stem nilsh, swallowed. But there are also O and E stem verbs that retain the vowel. Udosh, slept, bidesh, cooked. Therefore, it is common to divide verb stems into vowel-retaining stems and vowel-dropping stems. In the indicative mood, simply stating something, 3 tenses are distinguished: present, future, first past, and second habitual past. Here's a chart of different verbs in the indicative mood. So first, we have an A stem, again, distinguishing between first singular, first plural, etc. And they also have 2 infinitives. The infinitive is basically the most basic form of verb without conjugating for anything. So first we have the A stem sing, showcasing the present future tense. Moran, morat, mori, moratano, moratado, morit, morams, morano. Now we have an O stem, which is to watch. Vanan, vanat, vani, vantano, vantalo, vanit, vanoms, vanomo. And for the first past tense, we have an E stem, which is to swallow. Bilan, bilat, bili, bilitano, bilitado, bilits, bilems, bileme. Next, we have an A stem, which is to know. Sodin, sodit, sodash, sodinek, sodide, sodasht, sodams, sodamo. Next, we have the second past tense, and we have 2 E stem verbs for this one. The first one is to say. Merin, merit, mersh, merinek, meride, mersht, merems, and mereme. And finally, we have C. Neilin, neilit, neil, neilinek, neilide, neilt, neyams, and neyeme. The third person singular form in the present tense is also used as a present participle. The second past tense is formed by adding the past tense copula la to the present participle. The other mood categories are conditional, used to speculate what could happen; conjunctive, also known as the subjunctive, that expresses wishes, recommendations, among others. The conditional conjunctive, it states hypothetical situations. The desiderative, wanting to do something. The optative, expressing wishes. And the imperative, commanding someone to do something or not to do something. Here's a chart of the first 4 mood categories using random verb types in order to demonstrate all of the different verb endings in each mood. And again, we'll go from top to bottom. Yars inderam, yars inderat, yars inderai, yars inderatano, yars inderatado, yars inderait, yarsams, yarsamo. That was for the verb to eat. Next, we have the verb to win in the conjunctive. Isnavlin, isnavlit, isnavol, isnavlinek, isnavlide, isnavult, isnams, isnamo. Next, we have the verb to be in the conditional conjunctive. Ul inderavlin, ul inderavlit, ul inderavol, ul inderavlinek, ul inderavlide, ul inderavolt, ulems, uleme. And finally, for the desiderative, we have the verb so. Vid excellin, vid excellit, vid excel, vid excellinek, vid excellide, vid excelt, videms, and videme. Yes, we've already listened to a sample of the language, but I will leave you with a chart in case you'd like to pick up some common words. I'll do like the first few, the most basic ones like greetings and such, so then you could understand how to say it if you ever meet somebody from this region. So to say hello to one person, it'd be shumbarat. To say hello to multiple people, it'd be shumbaratalo. To say, what is your name? You'd say kola don lemet. To say my name is, you say mon lemem and then insert your name there. To say thank you is shukbara. And goodbye is vasto mazanok. And you can look at the rest of the list here. This is the end of the video, guys. Unfortunately, it was a pretty short one because this language isn't heavily researched, but hopefully in the future, it will get the documentation and exposure it deserves. If you like this video, then you'll love my Finnish one that is over an hour long and talks about all the aspects of the Finnish language. It should be right there in the middle of your screen right now, so you should probably click that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.